Welcome. Another random live, and I just feel really inspired to share some things that have been brought to me by the guides, by spirit, by my higher self, as far as some insights along what's going on, not only within me, but collectively, those of us who are consciously aware that we're on a spiritual path. With all of the astrological transits and cycles that we are traversing through, we're at a period of time, and we have been cycling in and out of what's known as the dark night of the soul. And I know I spoke about this in my last video, and it was actually John of the Cross who coined that phrase. And I was brought back to the very first, not the very first, but one of the very first books that was brought to me on my path, that was extremely helpful, and I've read it many times, and it is called A Path with Heart by Jack Kornfield. And this is a guide through the perils and promises of spiritual life. It is a compilation of a lot of the teachings from the greatest mystics known on this planet since we've been on this planet. And every single teaching, whether it's Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, they all lead to the same things. So I wanted to really share with you because I kept pulling the Dark Night of the Soul card for the last 4 or 5 weeks and didn't understand it because it was not in alignment with my experience or my understanding fully of the dark night of the soul, or my ego was protecting me, put it that way. But I'm going to just kind of share with you some highlighted parts of this one particular chapter, which may help unpack and unravel for you, as it is for me, what we're experiencing now as we're moving through this last quarter of the year. And we're moving into, good morning, Lisa. We're moving into the last eclipse season of this year, and Pluto moving back into Capricorn and then turning direct and moving into Aquarius. These are big cycles. And when we're on a spiritual path, when we're consciously aware that we've been awakened to more realms than just the third dimensional realm that we've been taught and are participating in, we get awakened to so much more, right? And I'm not going to read all of this. I'd love to, but I did highlight some really important parts. You know, when we're first awakened, we do go through many various states of joy and unity and love, and we're brought into this nirvana and everything seems it is called A Path with Heart by Jack Kornfield. And you can see how tethered it is. I mean, I've carried this book around with me for years and years and years, and it has walked me through all of the different things that I was experiencing. For me, there was deep resonance in these teachings and in this understanding. And even though a lot of it, he talks about the elders map of insight meditation, it really is, if you look at it, when we're on this spiritual path, we are walking meditation. Not always, but we are walking meditation. So let's see where I want to begin here, because we are going through this death and rebirth process over and over and over again with the Pluto with all of the transits, but we'll look at Pluto specifically. we're brought into this higher awareness. And let's see, the first part I want to share that was spoken about a Zen teacher, Carl Fried von Durkheim. I'm going to really butcher his name. He spoke for the need of this process. He wrote, "The person who, being really on the way, falls upon hard times in the world, will not, as a consequence, turn to that friend who offers him refuge and comfort and encourages their old self to survive." Because this really is a death of the old self and the identity with the ego that we had. Yeah, that's a great one too. The bag of, yes. Rather, he will seek out someone who will faithfully and exonerably help him risk himself so that he may endure the difficulty and pass courageously through it. Only to the extent that a person exposes himself over and over again to annihilation can that which is indestructible be found within them. In this daring lies dignity and the spirit of true awakening. So this really is an annihilation, the death process of our old self, of what we identify with. And it can get, when we go into the stages of dark night, it can get quite intense. But recognize that when we fall through these challenges, we are challenged yet again to see what are we attached to, what story are we attached to, what versions of us come alive and become conscious and are reaching and grasping for control, for all kinds of things. So the spiritual description of death and rebirth as a dark night comes from the writings of the great mystic Saint John of the Cross. In an eloquent way, he describes the dark night as a long period of unknowing, loss, and despair that must be traversed by spiritual seekers in order to empty and humble themselves enough to receive divine inspiration. Excuse me. Okay. So it is a humbling, for sure. He put it this way: the soul that is attached to anything, however much good there may be in it, will not arrive at the liberty of the divine. Traditionally, the dark night arises only after we have had some initial spiritual opening. In the first flush of practice, joy, clarity, love, and a sense of sacred can arise. And with them, we experience a great excitement in our spiritual progress. However, these states will inevitably pass away. It is as if they arise for us as initial gifts, but then we discover how much discipline and surrender are needed to sustain and live in these realms. Inwardly, we often touch the light and then lose it, falling back into separateness, despair, or unconsciousness. This may happen many times in the repeated cycles of opening and letting go, of death and rebirth that mark our spiritual path. Yet it is this very process of death and rebirth that leads us to freedom. Once we have abandoned the luminous state of arising and passing, we open to a profound cycle of disillusion, death, and rebirth. As awareness releases its hold on the corruptions of insight, it becomes yet more precise and fine. Then it is as if the microscope of our concentration begins to see with exquisite clarity the dissolution of all life experience. We immediately feel the end of each moment and the end of each experience. Life begins to feel like quicksand. Everything we look at or feel is dissolving. In this stage, nothing around us seems solid or trustworthy. On all levels, our consciousness becomes attuned to endings and death. We notice the end of conversations, of music, of encounters, of days, of sensations in the body on a powerful cellular level. We sense the dissolution of life moment to moment. Now, as the dark night deepens, our outer and inner worlds dissolve. We lose our sense of reference. There arises a great sense of unease and fear, leading us into a realm of fear and terror. Where is there any security? Wherever I look, things are dissolving. In these stages, we can experience the dissolution and dying within our own body. Consciousness seems to have opened to the realm of death to show us how all creation moves in cycles, all ends in death. Good morning, Finding Joy. We experience how every aspect of the world comes into being and inexorably passes away. From this realm of terror and death arises a deep realization of the suffering inherent in life, the suffering of pain, the suffering of loss of pleasant things, and hanging over it, the enormous suffering of death of whatever is created or loved by us. Out of this, we can experience tremendous sympathy for the sorrows of the world. It seems that no matter where we look in the world, at our community, our family members and loved ones, our own self and body, all of it is fragile. All will be lost. As the realms of terror deepens, periods of paranoia may arise. In this stage, wherever we look, we become fearful of danger. We feel that if we walk outdoors, something could run us over. If we take a drink of water, the microbes in it could kill us. Everything becomes a source of potential death or destruction in this phase of the dark night. People experience these feelings in many different ways as pressure, claustrophobia, oppression, tightness, restlessness, or struggle, or the unbearable, endless repetition of experience, one after another, dying all the time. We can feel as if we are stuck in meaningless cycles of life. Existence can seem flat, arid, and lifeless. It is as if there is no exit. As you might expect, it is hard to go through these stages, but continuing to sense these new levels of consciousness with clarity and acceptance is the only way through them. And I'm going to get you to the profound part that really stuck out to me. We must name each one and allow it to rise and pass. And what he's talking about in the beginning of the book, he's talking about the incessant visitors of the mind, and emotion, fear, paranoia, thought forms that are disturbing. They arise, we name them. He calls them the inner demons, naming the inner demons. Allow them to rise and pass. Any other reaction will keep us stuck. As we learn to acknowledge each state, name each state, and meet it with mindfulness, we discover that we are dying over and over again. What we are being asked to do is open to this death and become someone who has entered the realm of death and awakened in the face of it. In traversing these painful stages, there next arises a deep, profound desire for freedom. This is kind of where I'm at. In this state, we long for release from the fear and oppression of continued birth and death. We sense that there must be a freedom that is not bound up in our seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching, something beyond our plans and memories, our body and mind, the whole identity we have taken to be ourselves. In fact, in each level of the dark night, the increasing power of awareness has been gradually unraveling our identity, releasing our grips on all we have held in life. Even though we wish for freedom, there often arises a sense of impossibility, that we cannot go any further, that we just cannot let go anymore. We enter the stage of great doubt. We want to stop. We become restless. In one text, this is called the rolling up the mat stage. Here the world becomes too difficult. Our spiritual practice asks too much of us. We wish we could quit and go home to our bed or our mother. Because the powerful stages of fear and dissolution touch such painful chords in us, it is easy to get stuck in them and lose our way among them. In this process, it is important to have a teacher. Otherwise, we will get lost or overwhelmed by these states and quit. And if we quit in the middle of these stages of loss, death, disillusion, and fear, they will continue to haunt us. They can easily become entangled with our personal loss and fear in everyday life. In this way, they can become undercurrents in our consciousness, and the unresolved feelings can last for months or years until we do something to take ourselves back to this process and complete it. So I'm going to go on just one more paragraph, but if you recognize how we continuously go back to old pains and old traumas and old triggers, life brings us that back there, or we just go back there in our awareness and consciousness, it is because these are still the unresolved parts that we have kind of slipped by or skirted by. And it's important that we continue to unravel and unpack so we're not stuck there. The same thing can happen to people in shamanic journeys or at places in very deep therapy. If a process is incomplete, the effects stay ungrounded and leak to the surface, and we can be depressed, fearful, or angry for a very long time until we go back down to the deepest levels and bring it to resolution. And that reminds me of the card, Conflict and Defeat, in here. I was hoping that would just kind of pop up for me, where it's an image of the guy going back down the stairs, going back down the stairs into the depth of what has held us captive, the pain. Oh, so we have to go back down to the deepest level and bring it to resolution. To bring things to resolution means we must go right to them. We must be able to look them straight in the eye and say, yes, I can open to this too. Meeting them with an open heart that neither grasps nor resists them. When we can finally look at the horrors and joys, our birth and death, and the gain and loss of all things with an equal heart and open mind, there arises a state of the most beautiful and profound equanimity. We enter a realm where consciousness is fully open and awake, perfectly balanced. This is a level of wonderful peace. We can sit at ease for hours, and nothing that arises causes any disturbance in the space of consciousness. Consciousness becomes luminous even beyond the stage of pseudo-nirvana, because now everything is untangled, free, and we grasp at nothing. The world appears like a play of light and color, as a star at dawn, as a rainbow, as clouds, as the mirage. Everything that appears is singing one song, which is the song of emptiness and fullness. We experience the world of phenomena and consciousness, of light and dark, playing themselves out in a dance without separation. This state of profound balance, the elders called high equanimity. We become completely transparent, as if every phenomenon just passes through our mind and body. We are simply space, and our whole identity opens to reveal the true nature of consciousness before we became identified with the body. Some call this the higher self. I typically find myself calling it the higher self, but it's known as many other divine apathy. This consciousness is likened to the eye of God that sees the creation and destruction of the world, the light, the dark, with the heart that embraces it all. That is all of that. From this perspective, we see that we are nothing and that we are everything. From this place of balance, we get a taste of what it's like to be in the world, but not caught by a single thing in it. And then he goes on into the various realms of awakening when we get to this stage. And many of us have experienced the various realms of consciousness, the various realms of psychic awareness. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful book to really dive, if you're one like me, to really dive deep into what is happening to me, where is this taking me. There's a lot of rememberings and resonances, but there's so much that we have got to dissolve and release and let go of. And this doesn't come from our will or our mind. It comes from the ability to trust and to surrender to what is and what is unraveling from us. I just found that to be so profound, and tying it in with the astrology that we have been experiencing, but that we are being ushered through. I find that I feel that all those that I speak to, talk to about experiences that we're having on the spiritual path, in the spiritual journey, are pretty much going through the same type of experience of recognizing that we're being tested and challenged. Some get stuck there, feeling like a victim, like things are being taken from me, I'm being blocked from this, without the understanding of what is this actually asking me to surrender to? What is this experience actually asking me to let go of? Because this, all in all, it is about how much we love, how well we let go. Oh, and I forget the third one. It's in here too, but it's a beautiful understanding of like through it all. Yeah, I'm probably not going to come to it right off the bat. How well did I love? Anyway, I just found that to be so. I spent most of last night just in these realms and receiving the remembrance and the understanding of the unraveling and the disheveling and the letting go. And when fears arise, when grasping arises, I'm still holding on to that which has been programmed and conditioned in me, that which is going on and out in the world stage that I'm supposed to participate in, instead of just being in it but not a part of it, not grasping, not holding on to it. So I thought that was really helpful for me, to a helpful reminder for me to stop trying to control things. Stop trying to make things happen. Stop trying to control things, and really sink deeper into whatever is arising, whatever is unfolding, whatever is being released from me, from us, to let it go, to allow the organic, natural unfolding of us coming to our true, authentic self. And not being identified, I'm not being fully identified. This is a hard one for the ego. Not identifying with Paige, not identifying with the body, not identifying with anything is a process for sure. But there is so much to receive out of that. Let's just get a quick reading. Yeah, how are you guys all doing? I feel that these stages and layers of death and rebirth that we've been experiencing will continue, but that we will also be released out of that with new insight. And every time we're released out of that fear and the grasping and reaching and controlling to the higher realms again, we get new insight. And it's important to not even fully grasp onto that, but to honor this process. We actually don't have any control except for our ability to let go and to trust. And that's a hard one, because in our mind, in our root chakra, and this book goes into the chakra systems. It goes into so much. It actually is extremely helpful for anybody that is walking this spiritual path and want to have a deeper understanding of exactly what's going on inside of me, what's going on in my body, what's going on in my mind, what's going on in my psychic senses. in my dreams. It really spells it all out in such a profound way. I'm worn out from all the letting go and trusting. Yeah, and that's a stage too. That's a phase as well of the dark night of the soul that we're all actually experiencing right now. Yeah. I think that's exactly where I'm at too. It's like, okay, enough already. It really is draining. And I found myself recently, yesterday particularly, um, again, I did what I needed to do for the day, but I didn't push myself, and I was just extremely exhausted, physically exhausted. And last night, I know we got a huge blast of solar activity, and I was awakened around 12:30, and I was up till about 3:30. So that's when I kind of pulled out this book and started reading again. And it's almost something like I have to come back to it. I've been reading this book off and on for like 7 years now, but each time I crack it open to just one particular, it doesn't matter. I just sort of like open it up to somewhere. It takes me somewhere. It takes me to deeper awareness, deeper understanding than I had the last time I had read it. So that's definitely something. We have the dog as the first card out, which is devotion. How devoted are we to the unraveling of our old self, the annihilation of the old versions of self that has actually been clinging on to past, have been holding on for protection. Yet it's not doing us any favors on the spiritual path, meaning that there's so much more that we can actually get to when we allow these parts of ourselves to dissolve. Pisces, all about dissolving and renewal. So the dog is talking about devotion and being brutally honest with ourselves. Devotion, not to what we have been codependently conditioned and programmed to be devoted to, but devoted to this journey that we all have had initiations. Those initiations to wake up are usually a shock, but then it brings us up into the higher realms of all potential, and we experience the oneness, the bliss, the nirvana, and we receive openings of all of our psychic senses and more understanding and awareness, and it's amazing. And we feel our true, we have this opening. I don't know how many of you have experienced this. I feel like all of you, but this opening channel where we're receiving our true energy from the higher self, and it's almost like you don't even need to eat or drink. It's like you're just on this pure energy high. And that is our true authentic energy. Yet to actually live in that realm, to sustain that, it requires all of this unraveling. So we're then brought back down, where suddenly we start to lose. We start to lose people. We start to lose money. We start to lose our homes, our jobs. We start to lose our sense of anything around us. Nothing means anything anymore. And that begins the stages of the dark night of the soul, which goes in layers and stages as well. If we continue to stay devoted to this path, it will eventually open us back, lighten us up, and open us back up to being able to walk in the world, be in the world, but not of it, which is essentially, I feel like, our soul's destined path, regardless what our ego mind and our spiritual ego wants us to do and present ourselves. And we all do want to be of service. When we go through these and we experience the suffering, not just of our own, but others, especially when we've gone through this dark night of the soul several times. That was when I was brought back out of it years ago. I said, I want to help people go through this, because if I didn't have this book, if I didn't have this guidance, I was completely neurotic. I would have checked myself into some mental institution or some kind of, I would have put myself back into what my program conditioned mind would tell me to do, and get on some kind of medication or whatever, you know. So there's a fine line, but we stay true to the path and know that it's not going to be this way forever. We stay devoted to it, and be really brutally honest with ourselves. We start to unravel and unpack the parts of ourselves that want to have control on the spiritual path, that want to have things our way on the spiritual path, and we can actually be of true service to humanity and to the earth. It is a process. It is not for the faint of heart. But we're all in it, and we're all given the opportunity to go through this, to reunite with our higher self, to reunite with source energy, to get back to these realms where all is one, where we do feel connected to everything and everyone. But when we give up, when we're worn out, we're like, I can't let go of it. We get stuck there. Many of us have had, so I have this vision of, like, you know, a stream of water, say like a raging river. And if you put a dam up, or like even a partial dam, say a partial dam, so some of the stream can still go through. When we block it, when we want to stop it, that water starts to pool and swirl in a corner, and it just goes around and around and around and around in this little gully area. And we get stuck in these cycles and stages, and we just keep going around and around and around and re-experiencing the same thing with different characters and different experiences, but it's the same. We're stuck in where we had left. We're stuck in what we're holding on to, if that makes sense. So being devoted means like being devoted to going through even the really difficult parts, knowing that this too will pass, and it will also bring me to a place of true peace and harmony. It's not easy. Hippopotamus. These are all oracle. Okay. Yep. Here, one more. Again, staying devoted to the spiritual path that we've been all initiated into. It's a choice. This is where we have free will. It's a choice to stay on the spiritual path. It's natural to fall back into, I want to just be human. I want to go shopping. I want to hang out with my friends. You can actually do that on the spiritual path, but you're not attached to anything. You're not attached to outcomes. You're not attached to how other people see you. You're not attached to any of that stuff. Suddenly our values and what excites us and what's important to us shifts tremendously, and it will continue to as we dissolve old parts of ourselves. So when we allow this process to continue, eventually we are then stimulated yet again into divine inspiration. Instead of the ego will, like, this is what I want to be, and this is what I want to experience, and this is how I want to seem and appear and all that. We're emptied. We're emptied, and then we are thrown into divine inspiration that comes from a place in the heart, deeply in the heart. And we start to actualize our goals, our soul's goals. They become more tangible because they're connected to a higher aspect of ourselves. We are operating from the heart and not the mind. And then we have the Condor, the King of Swords. We see things clearly. The truth. Our mind is not cluttered by everything that it once was. Our mind isn't cluttered with insecurities, doubts, worries, fears, all of the things that the universe is trying to ask us to unpack, to give it up, to let it go. And then overall, look, this is beautiful. We have the Dove. we're able to receive messages from the divine, from our higher self. And truly, this says motherhood as well. It says divine messages, accord, and motherhood. And again, this divine feminine energy, the mothering energy, not gender, but energy is, and not the distorted feminine energy, divine feminine energy is gaining momentum, is gaining strength. It is rising on the planet. We start with ourselves. We start with being that parent, that mother to our inner children that are crying out, I don't want this anymore, I'm scared, or I'm angry, or I'm sad. We give those parts of ourselves loving, nurturing, patience, and as you would treat a child, in turmoil, in trauma, because this is traumatic. It can be very traumatic, the death and rebirth process. Traumatic to the inner children inside, the parts inside, traumatic to the conditioned program mind. This is deep stuff, but this is where I'm being led to talk more about this and not stay so much on the surface anymore. I don't know how much on the surface I actually go, but yeah, to even know, for me to even know where my life is going, I'm in my mind, I'm in my ego mind. I have to surrender it all and allow life to pick me up and usher me, show me the way, because until I'm no longer operating from the ego mind, if that makes sense. It's really profound time to be alive on the planet, where in this book, the mystics and all of the different traditions throughout time and space have written their understandings and their processes and their experiences and channeled information. They may have seemed like, just a few here and there in the grand scheme of the collective, where now there are so many more of us that are actually going through this and embracing it. Till we get to the hard parts, then we're like, no, I quit. I don't want to be here. And it's okay. That's part of the journey too. But know that when you quit, where you give up is where you're stuck energetically, emotionally, mentally, and life will show that to you. That life will show that to us, because I've been stuck in many different of these phases myself, and not understanding, like, why? I thought I already went through all this. It's like, no, you didn't complete it. I'm already being asked to revisit something that happened to me in 2018, which was very profoundly awakening, and beautiful, yet traumatic, and to go back and reconcile that within myself, letting go and let God. Yes, Scott. Yep. That's the name of the game, truly. And it gets harder. But know that it doesn't last forever. It is us who resist it. It is us who are grasping and holding on. And I don't care what the scenario is. It is our reaching for the solution, the remedy. We are so programmed to even get rid of a headache right away. Let me get rid of this headache. Let me take an aspirin or whatever to get rid of this, instead of sitting with it and having the experience. The other beautiful thing, and this came up in a reading I did, but also I think I shared it in one of the readings. It might have been on Patreon, I'm not sure now, was shared by Moon Omens. If you haven't checked out her channel, she's an amazing astrologer. I look up to her, and she's always got the most amazing astrological reports, and she goes it comes from the heart. You can tell she's channeling a lot. But she speaks of this one story, and it is a professor. I forget what he's teaching. I think it's a physics class, and he's in front of his students and he's holding this glass of water, right? He's holding it's not this big. He's holding a small glass of water and asks the students, how much do you think this glass of water weighs? And they're all, maybe 4, 6, 8 ounces, not a whole lot. And so he said, okay, what do you think would happen to my hand if I held this glass of water for a few minutes? And they're like, probably nothing. So what do you think would happen to my hand if I held this glass of water for an hour? And they said, well, your hand would probably start to hurt. It might start to be uncomfortable. And he said, what do you think would happen to my hand if I held on to this glass of water for the entire day and didn't move it? They said, well, your hand would definitely hurt. You'd be in a lot of pain. There'd be a lot of muscle spasms and contractions, and you may even cause some tendon, injury, and it would be extremely painful. And he said, why is that? If the glass of water hasn't changed in weight? And the students were perplexed. They couldn't answer that question. And then his last question was, what would I need to do to release myself from the pain and agony? And they said, drop the glass. That is us with our burdens. That is us with our past pain. The longer we hold on to it, the heavier it is. The longer we hold on to stories, narratives, painful events, traumas, all the things that we're being asked to unravel, the heavier and more painful it is. And so we are asked to drop the glass. Let me see what's going on here. It's like when you are moving from an old apartment to a new apartment and you have moved out and in the new place, but I still have to clean up that old apartment. I'm tired of cleaning. I want to be done. Yeah. Cleaning out the old. We're still cleaning out the old. We're being asked to drop the glass, essentially. And that, in a nutshell, is this new moon in Virgo energy, opening up the energy into the final eclipse season. Is how much are you holding on to still? And is that causing you suffering and pain? Because if it is, whether it's a story or narrative of things is never going to get better, I'm never going to have enough money, all this, the worries, the doubt, the fear, if we hold on to that and grasp onto that as truth, it causes deeper, heavier pain and suffering. And our patterns, our behavior patterns will be activated to compensate for that uncomfortable feeling that we have when the story in the ego mind is in operation. We are miraculous co-creators here. But what are we creating? Because we're not creating from the ego mind. We're creating from all the baggage that's stuck in the subconscious. Stuff that we don't always see. We're getting a good look at what we don't want to look at. We're getting to see if we slow down and we're consciously aware of what is arising, what is being poked and prodded and triggered in us is what we need to see and drop, right? It's it feels like things aren't fair, things aren't right. I've done all this work. Why does this always happen to me? But go deeper into that. Go deeper into that. What is this actually activating? There are inner children parts within us, and there are also managers, micromanagers that talk to us not nicely. Those we also need to drop. There's addictions and other escapism mechanisms that we're all facing from what is known as the internal firefighter or rescuer that are arising. I spoke of this in a video earlier this week, how I admit and recognize that I am a master escape artist. Yet I don't want to. There are times we have to give ourselves a little break and grace. Yes, we don't want to continuously be in the throes of pain and suffering, but the easiest way to free ourselves from that is to drop it completely. Drop the story, drop the narrative, and open ourselves up to much more that we don't see, but we've all been given the opportunity to see what we can't see. We've all been awakened and had very profound experiences that put us on the spiritual path. So know that that is a part of the spiritual path. And then we're brought back to unravel, unpack, let go, so that we can actually sustain the initial energy that we were initiated into. I create music, Scott says. My best work comes from a meditative state and emptying excessive thinking. This is when the music becomes organic and extraordinary. And that is just the same thing with life. That's beautiful. Yes. When we can actually get to, and what I've recognized and noticed when I'm embracing and embodying this spiritual path day in and day out is I'm just in a walking, waking, awake meditative state, and that is such a profound state to be in. It is also difficult. It is a practice. It is a daily practice to hold that state, to be in that state all the time. And I'm not always. I'll be honest, there are times where I'm just like, we're human too. We have to also give ourselves a break. We are human. We've gone through deep programming and molding and shaping, but when we can get into these states, put in the discipline, the practice, whatever practice that is for you, to really get out of the excessive thinking, to get behind it, even if you can't stop the excessive thinking, and allow the divine or our higher self, that creative flow, to flow through us, to channel through us. It channels through us through music, through art, through creativity, through our speech, through our day-to-day activity, through walking. If you walk, just practice on your breaths and your steps and nothing more. Maybe notice the nature around you or what's around you. You'll see that there's not enough time and space or room for the incessant thoughts and visitors to really take over you. Awareness without judgment, right? Yes. And it is, it's a wonderful state. Some call it the state of samadhi. I had I was blessed with being able to be in that state for, I would say, a little over half of a year, although I wasn't really able to connect to my family or friends or loved ones at all. I was just in this other state, and there was a protective mechanism, or maybe the intuitive insight that I was receiving was telling me over and over again to just keep going. Don't worry about what other people think. Is mom okay? Is my sister okay? Is my daughter okay? She's not herself. And I was aware of that, yet it kept going. It didn't matter. And eventually it brought me to a place of wholeness and stillness. And then I was lifted from that, and I was able to reconnect and relate again to others, but in a deeper way. So we're always this roller coaster. We're up and we're down, and I feel like when we can just surrender to what is at any given moment, knowing that it's meant to be, this is part of the journey. It's a journey, not a destination, not a goal, not a plan. There's a divine plan, sure, but that divine plan, we have free will. We can jump out of this whenever we want. But know that when we give up and we jump out, we're kind of stuck in that time and space energetically. It will always come back to us, which we do. We do from time to time. We need a break every now and then. It's like, okay, we're going to release this from you, but we will be coming back to poverty consciousness or abandonment issue, wherever you were left off. Take a little break and go about your whatever it is that the ego mind thinks that it needs. Eventually, we're brought back. We're brought back to given the option of going back down into the depths of our psyche to revisit and hopefully resolve what has been causing us pain and suffering at a very deep level. Presence, mindfulness. They all seem so simple, right? But these are daily practices that are extremely necessary for the death and rebirth process, because otherwise we just give up. We just give up. Knowing that we're being taken through the trials and tribulations and the dissolving of all that we've attached to bring us back to that higher state of awareness that actually is true inner peace, true balance, true harmony, not what the mind thinks it is. And you can feel it. The journey of learning. Yeah, it's Earth School, right? We're in Earth School. That was my mind's way of really seeing this in a lighthearted approach. What class am I going to be in today or this month or this year? Am I going to pass? Am I going to pick up all of the insight and wisdom and tests that come through the tests and challenges on any given moment of any given day? And be able to see how in the past, how I perceived things to be caused me great pain and suffering. Where now I see that it is just me. I see that it is just my perception and the story of my past pain and experiences that is causing me to suffer and causing pain. A lot of us cut our classes, yes. And, sometimes we have to. Sometimes we just do. And it's okay. It's okay. I've cut many classes. But know that when you do, you've got to go right back to where you left off. Which we're talking about heartache. We're talking about loss. And coming to resolution with that. Understanding and it's not even a level of understanding, but it's a level of letting go. I no longer want to carry this. I no longer want to hold this glass of water. It's very heavy now. I'm cramping up. I'm having spasms. I'm tight. I'm constricted. Hi, Dustin. 28 here in Corona, California. It's a great day to have a good day. Love you all very much. Yeah, we love you too. So it's going back into that. It's going back into what we've been tempted. And we're always the devil in traditional tarot, called temptation in this card. What tempts us back into old patterns, old ways. There's a lot of allure in the old, in the old and familiar. Especially when we're in the midst of the hardest parts of the dark night of the soul, and of letting go. We have this duality on this planet. So we're in the midst of really, truly trusting, releasing, letting go. And at the same time, we've got temptation on the other side going, hey, why don't you just come on over here? It feels so good. What are you doing over there suffering and struggling? Just, let's go back to the way it was. And that's fine if you want to dip, have one foot in one world and one foot in the other world, but just know to get to wholeness, to get to true inner peace, to get to true clarity and to get back to the initial initiation of where we were brought to a space, a place of oneness, unity consciousness, joy, love, bliss, nirvana, we've got to go all the way down and unravel, unpack, let go, dissolve all that we have been tempted into our entire life thinking. And think about marketing too, how marketing affects our brain waves in our mind our whole entire lives. Marketing or comparing yourself to other people, it's a trick, it's a trap, and it will pull us into a place of disconnection, disillusion, dissociating. They're giving me all the dis words. Dissociation, escapism. We're not fully connecting with all of our truth, our inner parts. And so, yeah, that's definitely something that when you're given an option, to either drop the glass, metaphorically speaking, or to keep holding on to that glass, but maybe, that's not a good analogy. Let's see. we're given options, and it's up to us to choose wisely. The other thing is that part of the dark night of the soul that I'm picking up here, and we're all in various stages of it, but some of it is linked to repeating things over and over again, and it's so repetitive and it's so frustrating, and it's like, get me off of this ride. I feel like this is the Uranus energy. Uranus is going retrograde tomorrow. I do feel that there's going to be a big shift in the energy, but we become discontent and bored with life because it's actually, we're just playing in the same, we're in that spinning around of that pool, we're just playing in the same energy over and over and over again, not realizing that, oh, if I just drop this belief, if I just let go of the need to control and make things happen and do, something will open up for me. But this boredom, that desire to be free from this, I want to be free from my final exams of the universe, of this class. I don't want to take them. That's fine. Cut class. Eventually, you're going to have to go back and take that test. But it's really important if we want to get to truth. There's that card. If we want to get to true wisdom, look what we have. We've got to continue with this part of the journey, the dark night of the soul, going back down into the basement of our own inner psyche, and seeing what else do I need to let go of and dissolve once and for all. And you'll be surprised, and spiritual strength below that, you'll be surprised, we're all surprised at how it's not as difficult as what the mind tells us it is. It just contradicts everything that we've ever been taught. It contradicts the inner protective mechanism of the ego. And that's what we fight with. We end up fighting with ourselves. The universe is just like, which one are you going to choose? Which one are you going to choose? A lot of times we go back to the old familiar instead of to the new, because the new asks us to, asks too much of us sometimes. Spirit, God, universe, you're asking too much of me. I can't let go of another thing. This is too much. It's too scary. It's too hard. That's the inner ego, the monkey mind. Just continue to relax and let go into it. Things will open up. They will. Let me get one more card for us all. I'm going to read it from the Oracle, the 7 energies. Thank you all for joining in here. For those of you who are joining just now, or Dustin, I did go into some of the, I was brought back to this book yet again. I'm always brought back to this book when my mind is grasping and reaching for, like, what is this? And I turned to the stages of the dark night of the soul and recognize right away that we are collectively going through these stages over and over again. So anyway, check back with the beginning of the video when I post it, if you're interested in hearing that, because it really does kind of help put things together in a better way. I know for myself, my ego mind, it's like, okay, there actually is a rhyme and a reason to all of this, and that is enough. I already have the trust. I already have the trust in the ability to let go. I've let go of so much before that I'm going to keep going. I understand that this is a process, and it is a continuing process, because we have so much past stuff. We have so much ancestral stuff to release and dissolve and let go of. So much. All of us do. But if we just surrender and allow it, and know that anytime that we are feeling something that is painful or causing us suffering, that is, check with the story in the mind. That might be what you need to let go of. The actual narrative in the story. The identification with. Okay. So this is an interesting card. And I'm already given right off the bat to, I can read it from the book, take it with a grain of salt. This is really telling us to check in with ourselves. Where are we lying to ourselves? Where are we telling ourselves a tall tale? There's Pinocchio there, right? Where are we believing the lies that have been fed to us from outside of ourselves? Still connect. Where are we holding on to those stories as truth? A tall tale. This is another big message that has been coming through for the past few weeks now, as we go through this lunation cycle and eclipse cycle, this last quarter of 2024. So many of us, so many of the collective are going to be given the actual truth and realizing that they were sold a lie. And this is on a big scale. Whether it's like governmental, whether it's in your family, whether it's you with you, this is going to trigger yet another dissolving of it. It's also going to be another awakening and assist with the dissolving of the old narrative, the dissolving and letting go of the old self, the conditioned programmed mind, and all that we have attached to, all that we are grasping and reaching for. So that is a big message that's been coming through. We'll read it from the book too. But yeah, they're already saying that this may also resonate for some of you in your current experience, especially as Pluto starts moving into Capricorn. That's going to be a big one. You or someone else is telling a tall tale right now. You always know if a falsehood is spoken because it doesn't feel grounded. When you lie, you get high on an illusory sense of power that is doomed to fail at some point. You feel driven by the fear of exposure, but something makes you stick to your own story even when you know it has no substance. Whatever lie we are caught up in isn't as important as the motive for it. Why does anyone lie? Perhaps we don't believe the truth is good enough, or we want to keep doing what we know we shouldn't be doing. Then there is the lie put forth in denial, such as hiding an active addiction. In this scenario, we may believe our own lies. The tall tale, the white lie, the stretching of the truth, and the blatant fabrications are all about control. The desire for it, the lack of it, the need to maintain it so we can manipulate the outer world and hide our inner one. Today, ask for the truth. Be willing to pay the price and be okay with the vulnerability your lie is exposing in yourself and others. Transparency is required to get to where you need to go, to be truly empowered, to reveal the strength of what is true and authentic. Any other path leads to a dead end. Remember the saying, the truth will set you free, and get ready to fly unfettered. Yeah, it resonates for me too in so many ways. And this has been coming up in my awareness, where I have lied in the past and why, where I lie to myself, even the white lies, all of these things. It's these are all the little intricate parts that it's just like, let it go, drop the glass. That's what I have for us all through this weekend. So thank you guys for all joining. This month I celebrate 7 years free from drugs. Congratulations. That is definitely something to be proud of, to be happy and free from. I definitely am aware, like, same here, to be free from drugs, from medications. For me too, 7 years, actually. That's interesting. So, and not to even have a desire, but to look back at myself at that time and see how damaged, how much I was clinging to an old story. And this was like, that was definitely a catalyst for my awakening to the spiritual path, for sure. So there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to, all of that stuff. Everything happens in such divine order. And we do sign up to have these experiences so that we can break free from that which has had its grips on us. Whether it's just belief systems, to addictions, to codependencies, to relationships, to the ego needing to look a certain way, to be a certain way, to act a certain way, to be seen a certain way. All of these things. I am candid as to help others escape. Yeah, same. I talk about it often. I've been talking more about it lately, but I feel that the one thing that is difficult, makes it difficult for many people to break free and to be actually 100% honest, where that the dog also speaks of honesty, right? Is shame. Shame is the detriment to healing from anything that we feel guilty or shameful of in the past, especially addictions. And I want to break that cycle for people. I want to break that for many others, because that keeps a lot of people in that perpetuating cycle of the guilt and the shame. And that is just something that needs to go away. In the new paradigm, I don't see guilt and shame. We all create our own suffering when it comes to that kind of stuff. So thank you for sharing. Congratulations, Scott. Yeah, so let's all be brutally honest with ourselves. Understand that we on the spiritual path are still working our way through the dark night, and we can come and we can go, but we're always brought back to wherever we had stopped ourselves or broke free from a difficult part of the journey. Eventually we're brought back to it to be able to resolve it and continue on with the unraveling, unfolding, unpacking, letting go. We got to go back to where we left off. So that's what I have for us all. Thank you guys all for joining. Sending you so much love. Take care. Bye.